Anyways, today's video, I'm gonna teach you the YCS champion that played Ryzeal FIENDSMITH and built Ryzeal FIENDSMITH. They're gonna teach you how to play Ryzeal FIENDSMITH and everything you guys possibly missed, or as you're playing yourselves, or something's not going right with the deck because you're playing and don't know what to do. I'm gonna teach you all these things. 10 massive tips that people don't know that I will go through in this video. So let's get straight into the video. Before we do, because I want to learn much more, I have done a 12-hour recording training my people on how to play this deck. It's only $50. That's about $5 an hour. So you guys want to go check that out. It'll be down in the description below. Also for Boxing Week and Christmas, I'm reposting every single trip game playmat ever done, and they'll be sent within a week. Check that out right now. And everyone's already ordered the playmats. It's getting sent already. All right, let's get straight into this video. Everything but Ryzeal FIENDSMITH. Let's get straight into it. Let's go. Tip number 1, make sure your deck list is actually good. So this is my pure Ryzeal FIENDSMITH. That's what I'm going pure. I'm not adding Bystial is what I mean by that. My Bystial version is very good and maybe the best version, but Ryzeal FIENDSMITH specifically, make sure you know what you're siding in now. Make sure your deck is actually good and perfect deck list. Make sure you're not playing plug-in and all that bullshit. You're playing maximum mana hand traps, 17 hand traps here, full engine, play 3 track. You want to see this card, max these out. Okay, now that you have the deck list in order, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Look at this shit. You have one of these. Until you have one of these, don't touch the deck list. Build it card for card, as I'm telling you. And now that you have that in order, we get to the next part. Like, once deck list is good, now you can learn the deck. So tip 1, make sure your deck list is good, aka use this exact deck list I have. Now on for the tip 2, you need to know what Ice Ryzeal does. So tip number 2, 1 Ice Ryzeal. You need to know specifically how to do this. So you go Ice Ryzeal, use special X. You don't special sword, because it's basically the only opportunity to actually get an ad from X Ryzeal. So you're gonna go X Ryzeal effect to get sword. At any given moment, if your opponent hand traps the ice, you're able to engraver, you're able to track, you're able to X, you're able to bonfire, you're able to sword. You have an infinite number of pushes and extenders. Hence, you always start with the ice. Even though I want to play around for walls, you don't play around for walls. You fucking go ice into X. Okay. We're gonna get to later what do you do when you have engraver and ice. What do you do first? We'll get to that later. Almost always go Exiton. If you're going we'll get to that later as well. There's an Exiton / Moon. There's 10 tips on how to do it. This is a very straightforward tip here. Tip 2 is just what the full combo is of 1 Ice Ryzeal, what it does. You go Exiton into Requiem. You go Lacrima sending engraver. Always go first things first. You go Requiem to make the Necro Quip. This is all just a 1-card combo. Send back the Exiton, special the engraver. Say very loudly, anything! All right, once they say no, sir, you go Caesar. You're safe from Nib. Then you go into your Ryzeal play. You have full Requiem Lacrima trap setup, any of the full Caesar, and then you go special to get the sword. Then you specifically get the X. At this point, you can send Aggregator if you want an extra interrupt, or you can send another Light Fiend. Now, this will always depend on what the situation is. You can send a Detonator for an extra name. However, when you specifically start with Ice Ryzeal and X, you will always have just enough where you do not need to use the Detonator if you start with Ice or X. So in this scenario, because I don't care about Aggregator as a follow-up, I'm gonna send an Aggregator to send with the X, because it's not like you're not really playing pure Ryzeal. Like, you don't really care too much of that in the deck. Sometimes it matters. Here, not necessarily. You go Dual Drive effect number 1 to attach whatever Ice. You're gonna use this. You're going to put back the fire, always put back the X. Keep Ices underneath the Dual Drive. Doesn't matter. You want the X and the throw basically in rotation through the cross. You're gonna add cross and you're gonna add node. At this point, you're going to activate cross and you're going to put back whichever you like. I'm going to specifically put it back in the center to play around a Bystial. I'm going to put back both X Ryzeals. You're going to draw a blank card. Whatever it is irrelevant. That's pretty cool because you're going to sort it away. But whatever you draw is irrelevant because, I mean, the trap you're going to get with this. So this draw is a total blank. You're going to get the trap anyways. Like, you're going to just note. This is why drawing Paradise is not the end of the who cares. You just extend it with node. But whatever this card is, I'm going to pretend we don't have it because it's good if we draw this because you're going to send it to the grave, right? We're going to pretend we have nothing. We're going to just, whatever we drew from the cross, we just discard. And then you're going to get the trap later with this anyway. You get the sword, and then you go into your Detonator. So for 1 card, 1 Ice Ryzeal ends on a literal unbreakable board. It's better than the Snake Eye Ash, but in every regard. And you're gonna get yourself a Detonator for 3 pops. You're gonna keep your Dual Drive on the field because it's a Ryzeal cross negate. So that's 4 negates. The Aggregator negate will catch them when they don't know. That's 5. Double Caesar, that's 7. And then you're gonna go on his turn. You're gonna go Lacrima effect. Lacrima effect, the special Requiem on his turn. You're at 7 interruptions already. Requiem, gonna go Lacrima from the deck, and then Lacrima effect Knuckles and the traps. You already had 7 interruptions. This is the line you do. 8 interruptions with the trap. And then you on his, when he summons a monster that you care about, you send the Desiree. That's 8 interruptions. This is the combo. Do not fucking make sequence, okay? Do not make sequence. The card sucks. Do not make sequence. You get rid of all your follow-up. Desiree is gone. There's no more trap. So you lose the trap, you lose the follow-up, and you get obliterated to multiple hand traps. And you get destroyed to Nibiru. So this is the safest route of 1 interruption, 1 card equaling 8 interruptions. That's the main combo, and that's tip 2. Do this. Now on for tip number 3. Why don't we go back a little bit? Why don't we go back to the point when we're left with a choice? Isn't it good to have choices here of Caesar or sequence? A lot of people that aren't better than me at Yu-Gi-Oh! Believe that the best line here, one sec, let's just go back a little bit, is you have a choice here. When you pressure the Caesar, when you go Necroquip, Engraver, you have this engrave, and then you have a sword in hand and an X engrave. So this is the original setup. If you remember, you're faced with this situation. Do you go Caesar or do you go Caesar? 100 times out of 100 times, if this is all you have and this is your decision, sequence or that, you're going straight to Caesar. No questions asked about it. Caesar destroys the mirror. It is weak to pure Ryzeal. You auto win pure Ryzeal. Who gives a shit? So you go straight to Caesar. You never go sequence. This is a huge mistake coming from YCS champion. People are doing, because if you go sequence right now, if you go sequence, effect, all of your follow-up is gone. It's all gone. Without your board, you have no FIENDSMITH follow-up. You have no trap as a layered interruption. It's a layered interruption. You could eventually Detonator attach the Desiree if it all goes through, but there's no follow-up. And if you go sequence, you summon the Desiree and they nib you right here, you're crying. And you cannot Agnamde, like with just the Ice Ryzeal, even if you're playing the, like if you go Agnamde, right? Or let's say for end phase to play around Nibiru and do this, there's no Lacrima to put the Agnamde, to go Lacrima, Agnamde, Desiree in rotation. This combo requires 3 light fiends. So all the follow-up's gone. There's no Lacrima, there's no Engraver, there's no follow-up on your turn or their turn. It's dog shit. Even if it resolves, it sucks. Even if it resolves, it sucks. Now let's say they Veiler the sequence. You just lost a fucking Caesar! Like, I cannot stress enough how garbage it is to go sequence first. Like, if it resolves, it's worse, and if it doesn't resolve, it's worse. There's no world where it's not fucking worse. In every world, okay? You do not go sequence. That's tip number 3. You just simply make Caesar. End of story. Don't question it. Tip number 4. You're facing off a big bad Ryzeal Detonator. Oh, so scary. You just hand trap your opponent to fuck, and there's no Ryzeal cross because you're playing 20 hand traps. So, but they still end up, like, you Ash the Wreck, Ogre, Dual Drive, and then they go Node, Special Detonator. This is a very typical line where they're gonna end on Detonator and 2 cards in their hand, and you're gonna have an Engraver, and you're gonna have 4 cards, whatever the fuck they are. Okay, let's say you save these. I'm not even using imperm, bro. I'm not wasting an imperm here. This is what you can if you want, I guess, but I'm still not doing it. Like imperm is a weird scenario. It's like any other card. Okay. Let's say we have this. This is what your line is. It's not X-Send Aggregator like a bozo. It's Engraver. This is the line. When you see a Detonator and you have an Engraver, you go Engraver for Tract. You go Tract for Lurie. Lurie Summon. Simplified game state. They have 2 other cards. You do not go Requiem Effect. Because if you go Requiem Effect, whatever the fuck gets summoned will get stopped. And everything will get popped. You do not Requiem Effect. In this scenario, you keep Requiem on the field. You do not use the effect. Requiem is a quick effect. It's not on summon effect. This card's unbelievably broken. Literally borderline, like, must be banned almost. I hope it never gets banned. So broken of a card. What you do is this. You go Engraver Effect Engrave. Response. Are they going to Detonator your quick effect Requiem? Obviously not. So when they say no response to the Engraver, you chain FIENDSMITH Requiem. Response? What are they going to pop? Itself? No. Requiem Resolve. You're going to summon Lacrima. Engraver will resolve summoning itself. You will not use Lacrima effect. They can Detonator nothing. And then you Chaos Angel his ass. Good night. Good riddance. Goodbye. Just like that. The Detonator with 3 material did nothing. And there had no opportunity to do anything. You just outed a Detonator with 1 singular FIENDSMITH Engraver. Now let's say they had whatever. They had 2 cards. And then you do your other lines after that. That's how to do it. If they have 2 cards and that after I out it, I'm specialing X, I'm normaling X, and I'm not even making dual drive. It's obviously a Veiler and shit like that. I'm going straight to Detonator and attacking. Attacking for 65, pass. Then they gotta deal with Detonator Veiler, and their hand's gonna be like fucking Ogre Veiler. What the fuck's Ogre Veiler gonna do to you? Ogre Ash. Oh, not Ash. I would have done it already. Like, you know, shit like that. Like nib, or then they can nib the Detonator. Then you have Chaos Angel, and they have 1 card, you Veiler it. So that's the tip 4. This is how to out a Detonator with 1 Engraver. This is why Engraver is an amazing card. Tip number 5. You have Ice Ryzeal, you have FIENDSMITH Engraver. What do? I'll tell you what you don't do. You do not go Engraver. You for sure as fuck don't do that. You always start with Ice Ryzeal. I'll tell you why. You already lose to you already like hard fucked to Fuvulos, okay? If you saved Ice in hand, you're gonna go Engraver, Special Lurie, Fuvulos. You're not not playing around with Vuvulos by going engraver to track, keeping it on the field, and then play it. You need to put some fucking interruption up. So you're not playing around the card anyways. So why don't you play around every single card out there? And still, ice is still good versus that because you're gonna put up a detonator at least. So against every other card, you always start with ice. You go ice, X, add sword. X can now officially get its first add. No longer in the duel, unless you play hard into Nibiru, which we're never gonna do. Ice, X will never be able to add unless it's done immediately. So you ice X immediately, all restrictions are gone. Who gives a shit about all restrictions now? You go into Exciton, you go Requiem. I don't know about you, I'll tell you right now what the correct play is. If I'm the opponent and they have an Ash Blossom, I'm ashing Requiem to immediately. That's the time you ash this deck, where you go, or you ash Bonfire and like send a prayer to God, hoping, also, long live Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. If he ashes Requiem, that's the exact time he should be doing it. So it plays way better into every hand trap. If they ash it, you go Engraver, and it's like as if they just hand loop themselves. If they don't hand trap it, I'm gonna show you the line. If they don't hand trap it, you go Lacrima, you still send Engraver, because you don't want to show that you have an Engraver in your hand. And Engraver there, or plays around Bestial better. As additionally, so this plays around Bestial's way better, because you'll still build the sequence if you need to through multiple hand traps and Nibiru. Sequence is there as like a backup line through Nib, backup line through some Bestials, and turn 3 play. And it'll come up in this exact scenario where you draw Ice and Engraver. It can come up. So what we're gonna do in this scenario is we're gonna go Necro Equip. Next, we're gonna put this back Special Engraver, and we're gonna say very loudly, anything at this scenario, they're gonna Nibiru you. It's a good time to Caesar, but I'm gonna go ahead and say my opponent will Nibiru me here if he has anything. Especially if you're very vocal about it, like anything here, like you're understanding Nibiru is a card, so they're not gonna trick you or like anything like your understanding of it. So they'll Nibiru you if you have it here. This is the next line. You ready? You're gonna go Engraver. Well, before you summon the Engraver, you're gonna Engraver track, draw 1. So you just got yourself a free draw. Then you're gonna summon the Engraver, because if they Nibiru you're not gonna draw. So I just Engraver first. Engraver first. So you go Ice, you do all this play, and then you Engraver, because Engraver will get you a free draw off Necro Equip, and it plays around all hand traps. So by starting with Ice over Engraver, you play around hand traps better, and you get a free draw, which is a Nibiru, by the way. Now in this scenario, you ask them anything, they say no. This is the line. You ready? You go track. You go tracked, you get Lurie, you special. Then you go with these two, you go sequence. Why? Because they would have Nibiru you at that exact moment. And now you have 5 fiends, not 3 fiends. In this line, you get rid of Lurie, Engraver, and even though this is tough and it's gonna hurt, we're gonna get rid of the Requiem. We're gonna then summon at that point the Desiree, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna link these two into Agnamde, and then we're going to Agnamde, special Engraver, not Desiree. Then we're gonna Caesar. And then on his turn, Lacrima will summon back Agnamde, which will summon back Desiree. So this line still gets Caesar, still passes the Nib check, and still gets Desiree. And it's gonna do one cooler. This is when you draw Ice Ryzeal and Engraver, or tracked. And you get a draw. So now we do the same line, Sword X. However, this time we're not sending Aggregator. This time we're gonna send Exciton, and we want more Light Fiends because we just got rid of 2, right? Now it's gonna get even better because we're not done yet. We're gonna go into Dual Drive. You don't need to send Aggregator because Detonator will be attaching another card from Graveyard. It'll be attaching the Desiree. So if you notice the one card we're missing in the grave, it's the Trap and Requiem combo with Lacrima. But since we only play one Desiree, we go Detonator, attach the Desiree, trigger the shuffle effect on the opponent's turn with the Detonator, and then we Lacrima Agnamde Desiree because it's still properly summoned, even though being a material. So we're gonna go Dual Drive effect, and then we're gonna do the same line. We're gonna cross, we're gonna node, we're gonna activate, we're gonna draw. Oh, thank you. Looks delicious. Haha, food. Let's go. We're gonna put both of these back. Want the sword to play around hand trap a little bit. Draw. We drew twice so far. Cross and Necro Equip. This is why Lubellion is so broken. This is why Engraver is so broken. They're both so good in this deck that you almost always draw Necro Equip. So we just got 2 free draws, and they're insane, mind you. They're both insane. So at this point, we're gonna node. Now it's a little tough because Dual Drive is a guaranteed negate with cross, and I kind of don't want to get rid of these, but we have to assume that they're just dead draws because we don't know what you're drawing. So we're gonna get rid of the card that we don't like. I guess is least like they're all amazing. We'll just get rid of one of them. Whatever. It doesn't matter which. Like, you save the one hand trap you like the most. I like Nibiru more in this, obviously, but because like going first is so oppressive. But whatever. You just get rid of the card you don't want the most. Summon the sword. Then you go Detonator. And the Detonator is gonna attach the Desiree. Now on the opponent's turn, same combo, except it's gonna get 3 pops from Detonator. The Desiree Shuffle, which is a whole lot better than an Aggregator negate. You get Desiree Shuffle. You get the Dual Drive Cross negate. These are all crazy interrupts. You get 2 Caesars, that's 7. 7. And then when you think it's all done, you get Lacrima, summon Agnamde, bring back Desiree. The other option is if you want to make sure, because this will hard lose to a breaker. Not hard lose, because the interruptions are still so late. Like, what breaker, right? Like, are you going to go, what are you going to use? Ultimate Slayer? Then, like, it doesn't get rid of 3 interruptions. It doesn't get rid of 4 interruptions. If you Ultimate Slayer the Detonator, and then let's say you negate the Caesar with Aggregator, well, you can just stop the cross, because Caesar's still alive. And then just in resolution, you just Agnamde, Desiree. So then you still got this. So, like, this is the end board, basically. 8 interruptions with 2 draws. That's the line when you draw Ice and Engraver, where you're able to do Fiendsmith stuff without the Fiendsmith stuff, where you go Ryzeals and then you later Tract, because Tract is the extender that will be missing. All right, on to the next tip. Tip 6, we're going back to the deck list and explaining the play style of the deck and how the defensive cards and how this deck is played. This deck is played at its optimally with hand traps and not breakers, because the style of this deck is just like an infinite grind deck, where you're instead of summoning a Salamangre Gazelle as your control card, you're summoning a fucking Ice Ryzeal to put up the board I just showed you. So it's a grind deck that OTKs. It's a grind deck that puts up a crazy unbreakable board, but it's a grind deck that plays 17 hand traps and has infinite pushes, but it's a grind deck. It's a deck that plays on advantage and control with hand traps. Don't play this deck aggro. Don't summon 30 times. Play around everything. Just control the game state and you're going to win the game. That's how you play it. If you see, if you read that he has hand traps in his hand, don't go dual drive. Go Detonator. Half the times, I don't even summon dual drive. Half my games, I don't summon dual drive purposely. Like, if I have my 1 rank 4 play to make and I go dual drive, and if that card is going to get stopped once and I'm passing right after, I'm summoning Detonator. I'm only going to go dual drive if I know Detonator is coming after. And even then, I still go only Detonator sometimes, because the opponent, if the lines you're using hasn't lost yet to Ogre, Veiler, Ash, Imperm, Nib, Bestial, shit like that, I'm just going straight into Detonator. And then all these cards become almost useless, especially when you put everything in defense. Extra deck necessities is tip number 7. Make sure you always have these cards. Chaos Angel comes up a tremendous amount of times. The meta is almost shifting to Chaos Angel Turbo. You need Necroquip, you need Caesar. Please do not play sequence Agnamde Turbo. It's a fucking Caesar Trap Turbo. That's the game plan. Then if you have extra shit on top, sure, you could go for the cool sequence line, but make sure to prioritize the Caesar. Do not be removing this card. Do not remove Typhon ever. Typhon is a huge in the extra deck, and it's a control deck. Every card in here kind of pluses. Do not remove SP, it comes up. Chaos Angel, that's removal. Exiton going second comes up. Yes, you can close Moon all the time. Exiton going second to eat an Imperm and then go Requiem is so plus that is game winning. You don't need more than 1 duo drive because you're almost detonating anyways. So like 1's fine. And Aggregator comes up, but it's almost cuttable, but it comes up. All these come up. Agnamde is the 15th card in the extra deck, and it comes up tremendously. This extra deck's extremely tight, but as you see right now is everything you need. Dweller is the 1 card that I would love to insert. So Dweller would be a card that I would side. So I would literally do something like this, where I'm able to side the Dweller against the mirror to still have it in rotation. And then if I'm going first, I can remove for Exiton. If I'm going second, I can remove for something like Caesar going second. That's you need all this stuff a lot. Siding patterns. Tip 8. Druis Worm and Engraver single-handedly out Detonator. So make sure to use like Magnema or Druis Worm on the end phase and just crash a Detonator. These are solo outs. Engraver and Druis Worm and Magnema are solo outs. That's why Lubellion in the first place locals profile I did, if you guys checked it, is also so good in this deck because it serves going first or second as another Druis Worm. You can just draw this going second, go Druis Worm, enter battle, attack Detonator, kill Detonator. Go ahead and play. Engraver, Lubellion, and Magnemuts are all outs to it. Keep that in mind. Fenrir is also an out to it. They're all outs to Detonator. So make sure to have them somewhere in your deck because through your 20 hand traps, they'll still end on a Detonator. So you need some out to it while still giving yourself monsters. All right. The last tip of the deck, tip 9 before I go to deciding pattern, tip 10. Tip 9, if you play perfectly, you're going to have play perfectly for 50 matches. You'll see such a difference in power of this deck versus every other deck you've ever played. This is one of the greatest decks of all time because one of the greatest control decks of all time. Tell me a deck that could play 17 hand traps and never brick like this. Tell me a deck that has 17 hand traps and always a stars, extenders. It's just so good, especially because all like Bistials and Nibs are also half starters because they put themselves on board to make Close Moon. It's just such a powerful deck with a crazy toolbox of an extra deck, crazy toolbox of a main deck where any Ryzeal gets Aggregator to out anything or Exiton or Engraver pops. It's such an incredible deck. So if you just play this perfectly, maximize your playstyle with this, you'll never need another deck ever. It's that good. Tip 10 is lastly siding patterns. So So deciding patterns, I remove Cross, Paradise, 1X, 1 Sword, 2 Trap. What does that give me? If you look at this at the end, you have 16 starters, Node as an engine requirement, and then it gives you 6 slots to put in. If you're playing the mirror, you put 6 Charmies. It's 23 hand traps on a 40 card deck with 16 starters. You're not even touching your consistency. Like, you're still playing 16 starters. You're playing 6 cards that draw to get more starters. You're playing 6 monsters that put themselves on board additionally on top of that to help you with your piece. And you're playing 23 hand traps. It's incredibly difficult to lose like that. It's so good. So good. And you cannot even remove anything else. So then you're cutting out way too much engine if you are. So that's the deck. And then it gets Malice. You just put the 3, you still put in the Perulia, even though it's just an upstart. You just remove the 3 Bystials against Malice because they're not good versus that. Then you still have 23 versus amazing like that. And then for the Solemns, you just take out the Fuvalos, take out any cards that you don't like going first against that matchup, put the Solemns in. That's the 10 tips, and the deck's absolutely amazing. If you guys love what you see, smash the subscribe button, smash the like button. If you guys want to learn even more, this was in what, 10 minutes of a video? Imagine what 12 hours could teach you. So go check out the Ryzeal FIENDSMITH Master Class. 12 hours of a master fucking class about this deck inside out. If you guys love the tips. Thank you for watching. See you guys next video. Peace!